Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another FPF League Mark here with you for day Res 3 action from First Stand. And it's a tale as old as time, especially for us Western organizations. We're very familiar with, well, you've all but been eliminated from the tournament, so the pressure's off, and then all of a sudden, you get your best performances of the tournament. We only had 2 best of 3s in the docket, but Karmine Corp in the matchup that nobody expected them to do anything. The redemption arc begins for Yike and the boys.
Oh man, what a late flight for Karmine Corp to finally arrive at First Stand and showing
It takes a few days for jet lag to wear off.
Okay, I'll take whatever excuse you want to come up with, but Karmine Corp deliver on the day for the LEC and for themselves to get a little bit of redemption on how things have been so far at the First Stand event, getting a clean 2-0 victory against Top eSports. Yes, some room to talk about some choices and underperformance on the side of Top eSports, maybe a little bit of choking, but as well, it does need to give that praise over to Karmine Corp for getting it done on the day.
And right from the get-go, this 4-0 game 1, the energy just felt a little different around K-Corp, even though this first game very much went back and forth, and unfortunately it ends up being another Kanavi whoopsie that's the domino to fall, and this is just, with a sweeper, knowing guys are in the bush, he decides to face check anyways.
I think that's, you want to call it like an ego play in a sense, or maybe
he's Viego, he said, I can outplay this?
There was definitely a betting on himself type of moment. You guys always know I love guys that'll do that, but sometimes it bites you, and this is one that does bite Kanavi and does lead to the further slippery slope extended snowball that is in favor of Karmine Corp in this first game. I think you also had a nice little sighting of the Korean Jace, Kana coming on through and delivering some big time damage for the team. Game 1 was very much that surprise punch in the mouth from Karmine Corp and able to take it across the finish line.
Especially because it was kind of the LPL's game against them. Karmine Corp had 33 kills in 31 minutes. That's not your typical LEC game. That is an LPL bloodbath.
Now, I'm not ready to say everything is fixed for Karmine Corp in that sense, because I still think getting that type of bloodbath, which is uncharacteristic, let's say, for Karmine Corp, is still playing into this idea that you're taking every single opportunity that you think you find and identify without maybe having that one little, oh, no, maybe we shouldn't be doing this type of moment thing. So good for this one to work out in the favor of Karmine Corp, and we head into the Game 2 draft.
And, game 2 was the more cleaner of the two, truthfully. You have, obviously, what a bounce back. Absolute masterclass. We had a great Skarner game out of Yike, but the Ivern game, even with the Karthus invading him, kind of messing with his camps at level 2, Yike ends up, camping bot early on to get Kalista Targamas ahead, and then he ends up finishing the game with a perfect 18 kill participation and doesn't die.
There's a lot of champions that I think Yike can really thrive and do well on for Karmine Corp, but going to something like Ivern that we have seen in the past have success for him, he'd be able to facilitate and help set up the rest of his teammates back on G2. We're seeing it here with Karmine Corp at this event, and I think a good bounce back heading into whatever, the next series against Hanwha Life is going to be for Karmine Corp. Getting this one against Top eSports, against everyone's expectations and the odds and whatnot, to at least accomplish this one, to set up what you do have in a high value match against Hanwha Life, you got to give credit over to Karmine Corp.
And there was still a little shaky back and forth, especially the Otacon that they end up giving up to Top eSports. It looked like the wheels were falling off, and you could see, oh, here we go. It's 2-1 TES. That's how this is going to play out. But this clean 4v5 Baron, messy on the side of Top eSports. But as soon as they get this Baron, they get an 8k Baron power play and close out the game right from there. We're not used to EU or NA teams closing games out that cleanly once they do firmly get the lead.
Now, I do think part of that plays into what type of underperformance, lack of preparation, whatever played into what version of Top eSports we had out on the Rift today, because that wasn't one that was capitalizing on these type of mistakes. And we know the way that Top Esports has been able to play, what we have already seen from them at this event, capitalizing on those mistakes. They will be very much at the forefront of at first stand. So for them to not be able to get that here against Karmine Corp in this game too, where you do have, you know, the big lead for Karmine Corp, but an angle at that Baron fight, if you can execute, didn't get it right for Top Esports, and it's Karmine Corp stepping on away. 2-0 victors on the day.
3 guys deathless in that second game. You know, at least they obviously got him ahead early on the Ezreal, and we got to see that shade of that star power that we've seen out of him throughout the entire LEC. And you heard Yike on the broadcast talking after this. He basically says, not making excuses, you know, he's a good guy, he doesn't want to have that, but he talks about the whirlwind turnaround for this event, right? Usually Worlds or MSI, your team's there a week, more than a week, multiple weeks ahead to scrim, get acclimated to the environment, and basically says we came in, we had media day, 1 day of scrims, and then the tournament starts. I understand that upending your whole team, going to another country, there's no way to actually get into a rhythm until you've actually played some of these stage games.
Yeah, and it's very much so one of those ones of whether, okay, well, the first check mark is, do you hit the ground running at the event? And if you don't, can you pick yourself up fast enough before it's the cutoff point, someone's coming through for an elimination type of situation? So yes, Karmine Corp at least get that second check mark of pushing themselves back up off the ground and getting this one against Top Esports. And the other thing you got to think of for them heading into that matchup against Hanwha Life, they would have had like a 0 level of confidence losing this against Top Esports. So to get this one, out of all the teams you can beat at this event, Team Liquid, you know, stuff, Oysters, getting the win against Top Esports, the representative of the LPL, that should provide as much of a boost as you possibly could give to Karmine Corp heading into the matchup against Hanwha Life.
And I think, again, Yike said similar to that, if they were already feeling pretty down and now they're feeling really good that they got this dominant win, and all of a sudden Top Esports versus EU isn't looking so good internationally. You combine this with the G2 loss that they had last year, and okay, they can't beat the LPL.
You do start to have these questions, and I think part of that is due to the, you know, let's just say at least the strategy and preparation of the LEC. I think that they have identified and clued in on their nemesis in the LPL, on how to at least tango with them when we're talking about international events at this level. Good to see. Very much so impressed, and I think that this is one of those ones that at least keeps the event interesting through these parts until we start to get to the knockout.
Both of the matchups today, you would have said there was a serious underdog status going on, as both the LCK and LPL were there. We had the fun with KC, but it was, I'm not even going to call it business as usual, because it looked like scrims as usual for Hanwha Life in the matchup against Flying Oyster, who we were decently hyped about coming forward, but we got basically all power picks in this first game. Zeka on the Yone. Basically, this game falls apart when Hongq roams on the Azir. He ends up dying. Zeka gets like a 20 CS lead from that and had a 1k individual lead. I don't even think it was 10 minutes yet.
And I recognize at least first blood goes to the Oysters, so we do get that little.
They had a lead.
We did have a lead, an initial punch against Hanwha Life, and then Hanwha Life comes roaring back, the heavyweight champion that they are, to put the Oysters down on the mat. Game one, very dominant from the side of Hanwha Life. As soon as that mistake from Hongq happens, as you laid out, Zeka able to accelerate, able to get his economy going and really letting the wallet do the talking for Hanwha Life. The rest of the team members all jumping in on that action as well. Zayu's popping off, Peanut getting a bunch of kills and setting stuff up. Game one very much was the bloodbath and overwhelming force of Hanwha Life after that mistake. Game two, a little bit more interesting. A couple of angles, I'll say, from the side of the Oysters. And I want to give Hongq his little redemption moment, because he does make a couple plays here or there, shows that talent, that potential that we're talking about. But it's all met with what turns to be the spicy pick of the tournament, Zed in the mid lane for your boy Zeka.
Obviously, he was watching a little bit of League on Lock pre-tournament, seeing that Zed, man, it's not that spicy, but maybe we'll see it. Here we are. Game 2, it wasn't even like he had to go deep into the bag for this one, which is why it felt almost like a scrim, because Hanwha Life had that warm-up game and they said, yeah, I think we can style on them a little bit, because let's be honest, this is a terrible Nidalee comp for Hanwha Life, and Peanut somehow is able to pilot that. We get the Vladimir top for Zeus, which was actually the bigger menace than the Zed early on, or not early on, later on. The Zed was a menace early game, 100%.
Yeah, Zed was a problem early game, and I think kind of a strange thing that's almost gone. One of the most infamous champions in League of Legends has been, gutted so much at the solo queue level that maybe you don't see him often enough for these pros, because it looked like a lot of guys were maybe a little unfamiliar, a little untested on what Zed was doing throughout that early game and knowing what type of threat he can be, never mind in the hands of like someone like Zeka. But you go back to that Vladimir, and I don't know if Hanwha Life could have picked a worse option to pair up with that Nidalee in the top side. Doesn't matter, and especially it doesn't matter when Zeus is having some fun on that pick, getting a little bit more experience, getting to have a good time. Hanwha Life very much in control of this one. Again, 2-0 through the day. No miracle upset coming through from the Orcs.
And this, again, I bring up Scrim again. This felt like a series where Viper could have been alt-tapped for 50% of these games. He didn't have to do anything in this series.
Oh man, he looks like he's on Las Ratonas. Was the way that he was playing through this series. Is all he had to do. As easy as that, when everything is going right for Hanwha Life, you already have the incredible player that Zeus is in the top side. Zeka contributing the way that he is. Peanut helping support and get these guys off to the races so many times and stagnating whatever you want to do on your side. Hanwha Life is the real deal big boss at this first stand event.
And, they really have yet to be tested through their first couple of series. And obviously, we'll see what's next on the docket. And it's Karmine Corp, which, kind of like Flying Oyster, looked really good against KC. Maybe they have a chance against Hanwha. Okay. KC looks really good against Top eSports. Maybe they haven't. I'll stop you right there. They don't have a chance against Hanwha Life if they're playing at this level. Nobody at this tournament does.
It's going to take one of the same type of situations like you had today for Top eSports, where you have to count on them not being who we know they are type of situation. And that becomes even harder to have that, miracle storm happen when you're talking about a team that is as consistent, is as excellent as Hanwha Life is at the very forefront of this event. I'm with you guys. I'm with you, EU. I'm pulling for it. I think that getting that upset makes this event a whole lot more interesting and spicy as you get through these things, because otherwise it doesn't come through. I think we can have that conversation about how you might want to retool first stand the next time around to avoid some of these situations where you start to get games where it very much so is the case of, well, there's no path out.
And listen, if KC does get this insane miracle upset against Hanwha, all of a sudden the other match tomorrow, Team Liquid versus Flying Oysters, that's basically the elimination match.
That would really, really turn the tables, and knowing what it is, I don't know off the top of my head right now which one's first. That's
Team Liquid's first, so.
I was going to say, because if we could have that one be the follow-up match, that would be the perfect drama. So close to having the schedule work out.
Yeah, we needed to pivot around. But that probably would be a disaster for Team Liquid, because they'd be sweating, knowing the pressure's on them all of a sudden. Oh my God.
Yeah, how quickly the turns table in a situation like that one for the LTA.
But, again, if that does happen, then it really makes, if the upset does happen, it even makes the next matches on day 5, like Flying Oyster against Top eSports, could potentially be the elimination matchup. It really shakes up the whole group stage. So as much as we, it'd be better with 6 teams, maybe the format can be tinkered. It is akin to some of the old play-in tournaments for Worlds at MSI, where all it takes is one big upset to completely shake up the entire standings.
And that's a question on whether you want to then leave it up to that chance of having that upset come through, and then the chain reaction of events that can come through from that as the dominoes fall, or you want to be more proactive and say, okay, I want to inject something into this event. I want to take that new team. I don't want to, I wouldn't talk, blah blah blah, how type of ways you come up with that other team in this situation. But I think having that number of 6 and what you can work around in there does solve a lot of this. You do get this type of upset, maybe we don't need it after all.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show, how do you get a 6th team? Ways you could bring one in. You either bring the defending world champions, they automatically come in even if it's a different roster, or maybe they already qualified, or you implement a fan voting type of system where obviously you'd have to limit what teams you can vote for to avoid the full memes, whether it's placement from the previous season or the playoffs that just happened in different regions. But there could be some fun angles to bring a 6th team, because then I feel like you could have almost a loser's bracket, or the group stage has more meaning just with one extra team.
I think those are the fun conversations to have around how you would retool around first stand the next time around. Seeing a 6th team go through and being the defending world champions is an angle that I really like. I think having that opportunity to say, you are the crown champions, we love you from last year, come back, show out, have an event where the fans can see you again and celebrate that you are those champions of last year. But you will be tested against who are the rising crop out of this year, the top in their region that are aiming to get the success, to taste the wonderland that you had this year prior. I think that would be an interesting angle. And then as well, the fan vote. Of course, everyone loves a fan vote to bring things in. You would need restrictions, stipulations in this one to avoid it, because I think if you leave it open-minded or open-ended, we've seen that in professional leagues all across in whatever type of way. It does backfire. You have people getting whatever type of momentum and movement together to get something that doesn't necessarily fit or deserve the recognition or accolation in that spot. You could work that around with some restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, then you got people would be voting for the only winless team in some minor region that's losing in 20 minutes every game. Or the other issue I could see is that's just a way to shoehorn in T1. Because if there's any fan voting and T1's one of the teams, they're going to get 80% of the votes.
And, I can see the world of that conversation, but maybe let me put my T1 bias, hat on for a second. And I say, well, what are they supposed to do? Not be the most popular organization in the world?
So you're telling me if T1 was at this tournament too, the tournament wouldn't be more exciting?
And then maybe that becomes, again, one of those type of, additional carrots on the stick, additional type of thing for a team to say, okay, yes, we're looking for success. Yes, we're looking for all these other type of things. Maybe we got to keep improving how we are viewed by the global community so that we can get that type of invitation, so we can be considered in that type of tier like a T1.
So we've seen a Zed pick already, which, listen, this was only game 2. Again, hardly even Fearless draft, but what we are learning is that everybody loves Fearless, so much so that it sounds like Riot is saying, okay, the test run has gone well. We will be implementing Fearless for the rest of 2025. I know some players are more hesitant about this whole new restructuring of the draft format, but as fans around the globe, this is a huge win.
I don't know if anybody was really going as far as saying that, this would stay all the way through and be retooled around eventually to become the standard of League of Legends. But man, oh man, we have seen how things have changed, how quickly the winds are reaching the people at Riot Games and the strange world we are living in. They're actually listening to the fans and to the people.
Quickly, too. Like, I could see them saying, oh, you liked Fearless? Great. 2026, we'll keep it around the whole time.
No, it's going to be, apparently, according to rumors and reports, it will be 2025. It will stick around. It will change the rest of this year's schedule that we will have for the League of Legends community and professional scene. This will be crazy. This is one of those ones that will have a big domino effect extending out even more so than what we talked about, the domino of having it in this first part of the year. So to get that type of thing, and number one, happy Riot is paying attention, is listening. And I think part of it goes to just how much you can't ignore the feedback and the response to Fearless and how it has changed that viewing experience for the fan at home, how the difference in strategy and preparation has played into it. Absolutely big benefits for this game, and I think that it is a good step forward that we are moving towards this. Now, is it the permanent step forward that needs to be it? This is all our all for nothing. This is the fix, and how? No, I don't think that really is. I think it still does need to have innovation and working things around, but at the very least, stepping forward in how do you bring through a new era of League of Legends. Fearless Draft has got to be at that very forefront for me.
And I understand the hesitation or the points against Fearless from teams and players, because it is a major adjustment in not just how you draft, but how you find a play style as a team. So often in years past, there'd be a couple broken comps, like a full 5-team comp that teams would just practice and know how to master, or even pairings of different champions. But in Fearless, it almost seems not worth your time to be working on specific champion combos like that, because you're at best going to get them one game.
Yeah, it's again, we've talked about this at various times. Certain aspects get played up a little bit more in Fearless Draft. Having a pocket pick that isn't necessarily a meta thing, but is a unique champion to you, your play style, how you do it, and then having your teammates know how to play around something like that factors into it. Then you go even more so into talking about, you look at the coaches. How do you come up with your pick and ban strategy as you're moving through a Fearless series? And all of a sudden it goes, well, do I really know how to put together a cohesive
You get a lot more
composition?
gray hairs as a coach. That's what happens.
Exactly, as you're starting to eliminate certain champions, certain options off of the board as you move through. I can understand some hesitations for it, and we knew that heading into this first season, first split that we were going to have, a Fearless Draft. But there's no way that you've been able to sit through even one single weekend of Fearless Draft and seeing the breadth that it brings into this game at the professional level, and the creativity, the strategy, all that type of thing, and say, nope.
Yeah, I think the thing is, going back to 5 Azir games in a row is something no fan will be able to stomach. So very excited to hopefully get Fearless for the rest of 2025. But that is it today for Liga Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.